My name is Evan Decker. I'm a consultant with Mission Bit ICT Center, working as a project lead in the San Francisco ICT Pathways project. Together with these great folks and Tyson Doherty here, we came up with the teacher externship in the summer of 2014. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. I want to thank the partners that were able to make that happen. Mission Bit, Tyson is here from Mission Bit. Mission Bit's a really cool program here in San Francisco. They offer free programming and computer science classes to students in the after-school setting. It's been, what, 2 years now? 2.5?
This is our first semester or second year.
Okay, yeah, first semester, second year. And Tyson's been really integral in helping promote and sustain this project. Of course, SFUSD, all these teachers here are career technical education teachers. We worked really closely on the project with the CTE department at SFUSD, and these teachers were kind enough and eager enough to donate their time and energies over the summer to learn some great coding and programming, and also create some fantastic lessons and units to go along with the courses they teach. Of course, MPICT, want to thank MPICT and Baytech for providing the fiscal sponsorship to keep these teachers well paid and happy. So we're going to do some introductions, talk about externships, the impact, challenges, and then hopefully we'll have a good portion of time to do some Q&A. So on the panel here, I'm going to let them all introduce themselves. It's in alphabetical order, not the order seen here. So why don't we start with you, Eric? We'll go in the order.
Hi, I'm Eric Chow. I am an English and Arts, Media, Entertainment Academy teacher at Berkeley High School in San Francisco.
Tyson, that's you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry about that. I didn't realize that I was a panelist on this. Yes, I'm Doherty. I'm the founder of Mission Bit, and as Evan mentioned, Mission Bit offers, the nonprofit offers free computer programming classes and industry opportunities, programming-based industry opportunities for San Francisco public high school kids.
Okay.
My name is Sarah Friedman. I work at Mission High School, and I teach programming, computer art, and product design. And
Hi, my name is George Gonsalves. I teach at Abraham Lincoln High School in the Sunset District, and we have a multiple-year Academy of Information Technology program there, which falls under the arts, media, and entertainment industry sector in California. And I teach the junior year Media Arts 1 course, which is graphic design, and the senior year Media Arts 2, which is video production and web design. And we also have a sophomore year course, which is the intro to the whole program, where they get a taste of everything. But the kids who sign up for it are really interested in programming and gaming and things like that. So we like to throw in projects related to programming when we can, because that's something of interest to them.
I'm Mark Simon. I teach at Lowell High School. I teach AP Computer Science Principles, and Robotics.
I'm Doug Singer over at Berkeley High School. I work with Eric Chow. I teach broadcast media 1, 2, and 3. 1 is for the sophomores. It's like graphic design, web design. Junior year 2 is more about videography, and the third year kind of blending everything together with the broadcast.
And Doug is under the weather, so we really appreciate you being here. And then, yeah, that's me on the bottom. So the externship project came out of the ICT Pathways project. Through the Pathways project, we held a number of convenings, and these 5 or 4 areas here: dual enrollment, awareness, professional development, and CBO linkages were themes that came out of it. Obviously, through the externship, we were focusing just on the professional development piece. So the externship really came out of these particular teachers at our convening saying we need more time to get caught up on industry expertise, particularly the content related to programming that our students need to learn to be effective in the workforce. So this is where it came out of. In November 2013, Tyson and I and Olivia Hereford were meeting, and we kind of pitched this idea about the externship. And over the next few months, we kind of talked about what it would look like, the ability and possibility to get teachers into businesses where they would have an opportunity to work on a project. So we kind of came up with this model. So the objectives would be to advance the skill set of the teachers through the content acquisition, which Mission Bit was really able to help support and provide. An interactive role with tech industry professionals proved to be one of our more challenging spots. And then, of course, the end product, which is focused on the student benefit, which is the teachers creating curriculum, lessons, units, enhancing it, or creating something new for the benefit of the students. We went on, we selected a 3-week time span. We don't want to take up too much of the summer vacation, but we do also want it to be able to provide some in-depth professional development. So the first week was really intensive content building area. Teachers from Mission Bit worked with the 5 teachers on really what they wanted to learn. We had a couple pre-meetings ahead of time where we identified, teachers talked about some of the software that they identified that they want to learn about, and then really just focused in on that area. Like I said, we were challenged with the industry experiences. So 2 of the 5 teachers were able to have 2-week industry experiences, and the other 3 were happy and expressed interest in really just continuing to work on developing their curriculum and having the support of Mission Bit instructors. And then, of course, the 3rd week and kind of beyond was to focus on developing the curriculum. So implementation, the teachers are going to talk about this, how they already have or will be implementing during this school year. And then, of course, they're here to discuss what they did. I wanted to take this opportunity to kind of throw a question to Tyson, because it was a bit of a stretch, I think, in coming up with the idea and talking about it, how to make it work. And so I wonder, kind of as a community-based organization, as a nonprofit, what kind of compels Mission Bit to become involved?
Just through so fundamentally Mission Bit is focused on creating student direct value, educational and professional value. But in conversations with both CPE and MPICT, it seemed like there was both demand from teachers and interest and support from organization, both SFUSD and MPICT, and general interest in facilitating professional development. From our point of view, it seemed like an excellent way to experiment with indirect value boosting for students. So and do that in a way and try to do that in a way that replicated or reutilized any of our best practices or connections that we were using in our student direct programs. So it seemed like a very worthwhile experiment to test whether it was going to be value enhancing or not.
Cool. Great. So as I said, it came, the externship program kind of came right out of teachers' desire to have these professional development opportunities. And so these are kind of the 3 questions in preparation for this presentation that I asked. Why did you decide to do the externship? How is the externship different from other PDs? And how are you implementing what you developed? That's kind of the focus. So I'm going to kind of throw it over to Eric and Doug. They're kind of a nice, unique example of they both teach in the same academy. Doug's classes sequence into Eric's class, and so they independently and or together decided to participate in the program. And so I'm wondering if you guys can kind of talk a little bit about what compels you to participate.
Okay, I'll go first. So my name is Eric Chow. I teach the broadcasting media classes at Berkeley High School. So for, I guess, about 5 years, we've had this academy pathway. It used to be called AOIT, but then we changed our name to AME, which is Arts, Media, Entertainment. Two things. One, I think the reason why I did it was because we've been pushing our students to take these internship opportunities over the summers, and we've also struggled with trying to get commitment from companies to host these students. So part of it was I wanted to find out what that experience, what are the big takeaways from a summer internship experience would be like. So that's one reason. The other reason is, for me personally, I mean, I feel like I'm still an immigrant to like this digital media world. I mean, I'm an English teacher, and my background is mostly in writing and English language development. But I have an interest in digital media, web publishing. So I wanted to kind of challenge myself to learn some programming, and but those are the two reasons why I did it. And partly, I mean, if our school eventually does offer more programming, I wanted to know to what extent would I need to know the material in order to teach it. So it was a real challenge for me.
So similarly for me, there's sort of three reasons I thought of that prompted me to do the externship. One was just selfishly for me. I wanted to improve my skills. I had been playing around online and made websites and such with HTML4, CSS2, but I saw HTML5 coming, CSS3. I kept reaching out to the district, seeing if someone could help us or where I could get this training, and it's just sort of perfect timing with Tyson's Mission Bit. And when the then everybody started coming together to offer these opportunities, so I just wanted to jump on it just to learn. I also wanted to learn more about what people were doing. Like I understood that, what's that stat they always saying about how, I don't even know what the stat is, something about, jobs in 5 years haven't even been invented yet or something like that. So I wanted to just, I've been out of the workplace for 10 years, so I wanted to see what's it like in some of these software companies. And so when I talk about graphic design, when I talk about software engineers, I actually know what I'm talking about because I've actually been in that environment. So that was the first reason I wanted to do it. The second one was for my students, definitely. I wanted to bring it back to them and share what I learned. And third was really just for the community in general. As we've been talking about, there has been a lot of opportunity for teachers, and it seems like there's a lot of building of community happening now with MPICT and Mission Bit, and people starting to step up and realizing that in San Francisco we need more computer programming education for our students, or else we're going to keep giving jobs away to people from other countries and areas. So I just found it really important to be involved and build that community along, be a part of it.
Great. Do you guys have anything else to add to that? Any more compelling reasons?
Well, community too, our media teachers, we never get to talk or see each other. We're always separated out of schools. And so we got to be together. I thought that was really empowering, actually, to work together.
To see what other people are working on and how our lessons are similar but different. And how we can we're sharing curriculum, building it together. So yeah.
Software packages and different tools people use and how they listen.
That's great. And did you guys find that, kind of being in the space and having a lot of time where you're kind of building this content knowledge that you were kind of asking of one another, oh, can you help me with this, or how are you doing this, or learning more about your own curriculum, about the other curriculums that are being used?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll amplify on Doug. I mean, my knowledge of HTML was HTML 1.0, so and CSS was something they used on MySpace. So I was like really interested in getting my students' work up on the web, and I want to learn like what is the current paradigm for that? How does that work? And I was aware of what Mission Bit was doing because I had some of the kids participating in the program, so I got a little bit of this idea of how HTML, CSS, and JavaScript interact, but I didn't really know before this this externship.
Awesome. So as you kind of probably telling from what folks are talking about, the externship model is quite a bit different than kind of your typical PD model. So I think George kind of articulated best kind of his thoughts on how it was different. Can you talk a little bit about your previous experience with PD related to developing your content, and then how you felt Mission Bit filled that gap?
Sure. So I've worked for the district for 13 years, and I've gone to district-sponsored PDs and outside ones run by different organizations. The last 7 years I've been doing the multimedia and computer classes, but before that I was doing science for 6 years. So it's a lot different. Most PDs you go up, if it's an all-day one, you go to various workshops where it's mostly speakers and you're just getting lectured at and you feel like a student. You'll take some notes, you'll maybe get some tidbits on, oh, I could use that, I don't use that in my classroom. And it's usually like an overload if it's an all-day one. Or you go to an after-school workshop or a Saturday workshop, which might be like an hour or two, and same thing, you get some information. It's very rare. I haven't really gone to too many where you're actually hands-on learning, content yourself that you would then be able to put yourself in the place of your students. So it kind of allows you to create better lessons because you know it from the perspective of you're learning it yourself. So I like this one because one, it was in the summer, and so I had more time. I was actually getting paid to be there, and this would be benefiting all my students. So it was self-paced. I decided, which tutorials to go through. So we basically were sitting at a table, and each of us had our laptops, and we're going at our own pace, working through HTML5 and CSS tutorials, but yet there was the Mission Bit instructor there to help us when we got stuck and we had questions. So this was a lot different than other PDs where you have actually real-time, questions answered, personal questions when you needed to. And then, more importantly, then you were able to take that and actually get paid to create lessons and curriculums based on what you just learned. So never had a PD experience like that before. So, and I would sign up for them if they were offered more often. So it was a really good experience. So, yeah.
And so Art and so what happened, and one of the challenges that I kind of mentioned earlier was, we kind of set out with the hope that we'd be able to find industry partners that would be able to host folks on the projects, for 2 of the 3 weeks. Tyson really hit the pavement trying to make that happen, and we were only able to come up with 2 of the placements. And as I mentioned, Eric, Tara, and George were, excited to continue the work on the curriculum development. So they kind of had one experience, whereas Art and Doug both had industry experiences. I think Art, you were at Yammer, and Doug was at TINC. So you kind of had more of the traditional externship feeling. So maybe you can talk a little bit about how that differed from kind of your traditional PD, and also kind of what you were taking away from that.
Well, I had one previous experience where I'd been placed in an industry position, but it was not actually related very well to what I taught. I was placed with Autodesk in their educational marketing division, and it was kind of interesting, but it was not programming, it wasn't coding. So this was really the only time I've ever had any experience working with somebody or being around people who code for a living. I I took coding at City College. I've been teaching coding for a while, but I did not have that professional experience. So it was really, really valuable, and it was cool to bring that back to the classroom too.
Awesome.
Yeah. Before I forget, something that George was mentioning when we were collaborating, something that one of our Mission Bit instructors had us do was, which was new to me at the time. I only knew Google Docs for sharing. I never tried HackPad. Have you ever tried that? And so they got us into that, so we were all collaborating on that, which was just a great way for us to sort of streamline our knowledge that we were gaining, and kind of correcting each other on certain things and getting better links on this HackPad. And now the externship itself, I sort of had these 3 items again that kind of summed up my experience. One was made different IMing all day. I mean, I know my students have been a lot of IMing to each other all the time, but I didn't realize that in a professional work. Tint, by the way, if you haven't heard of Tint, they're a company that aggregates social media feeds. So, say for one of their campaigns when I was there was Harley Davidson, and they were driving around the country, and they had certain hashtags that were related to the campaign. So when the teens were just going to surf the web, they pick up all these different hashtags and aggregate them all into one page for Harley Davidson. So when Harley Davidson fans went to the website, they could see what was happening and follow along. But the externship itself, I mean, we had to be a part of all the conversations, and they installed this IM application on my laptop, and I was just blown away. I mean, they were just maybe joking around 20% of the time, 30% of the time on the IM. They're just cracking jokes. They had different rooms depending on what the project was. They had a couple salespeople that were out and about. They had a separate room for them that was including them. We had one just for my mentor and myself. That was kind of fun to like be at my desk, yet I'm still connected to all these other people, and even if I'm not in the conversation, I can see what they're talking about and feel like I'm kind of connected with what's happening. So that was super refreshing to see that this technology that we're telling the kids about in this class here in the workplace, everybody's using it. So that was one. 2, break time, like break times anytime. So like.
But it's an increase in productivity when you say, I mean, because ideas are floating back and forth a lot quicker, and it's just sometimes like not everything requires a face-to-face conversation. So like, oh, where'd you flip? You know, quick question on something and quick resource pass back. Like it fuels productivity.
Absolutely, that's definitely what I noticed, and they were just funny over there. One of the guys. So I'm going to hit myself, but the third thing I guess for me was like all the food, the drinks, and the entertainment. And all that. I can't help it, but it was certainly fun. And one of the guys, it made the work environment so fun. What are those things called? You walk on a treadmill. Are those things like when you just walk on a treadmill? Right. Yeah. You put the laptop up there, so he's coding while he's treadmilling. And then they had the World Cup was going on, so they had this huge like 60-inch TV. People were just hanging out, you know, coding, and then the commercials and the game's on, and then people running in. It was so laid back, which just really made a big impression on me. It was super young. Everybody was in their 20s. I loved the way that the company, they weren't just giving back for me, but they also had other interns. They're not just teachers, but they had interns from San Francisco State who were super knowledgeable. So it seemed like they were really giving back to the community, and they really wanted to help out. So yeah, I had a ball. I had a really good time. Everybody was really helpful, and you know, whenever I had questions, they included me, and they had the only meetings that were like set was a daily meeting, like around 2 o'clock or so, or 3 o'clock, kind of when everybody was back in the office, and they would have like a 45 to an hour meeting. Everybody would report on what they were working on, including myself. I would have to say what I was doing and be chaired. That was it, you know.
Question. So how do you think that experience impacts your interaction with your students when you're teaching them? I mean, I guess what I'm looking for is, you know, as a teacher, many times we were very strict with time and structure, and now you've gone into the opposite. You know, so how does that change you towards them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's segueing us into our.
It is. Feel free to respond.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still sort of struggling with that. Definitely a lot of the skill set that I've introduced like something like Git and GitHub I hadn't even heard of before Mission Bit, which is version control for those of you who don't know. And I'm still learning a lot about it. And I saw that on my externship. What are they using? You know, Git and GitHub in a lot of places. So that's something I've already brought back to my classroom to show kids. Some kids are really into it. Some kids, it's freaked them out. Maybe it's not all. The first time I was teaching it, Art and some of the other teachers have been helping. We all kind of shared curriculum on that and how to introduce it to the kids. But in terms of timing and all that, yeah, I mean, they certainly had deadlines that they had to meet. So I still feel like deadlines are important. But yeah, I mean, maybe I'm a little more open now. Maybe this year we'll see what happens. If, you know, kids need a break to go take 5 minutes to run around outside, maybe just go let them do it. Come back and not be so strict on making them sit down in the same place all the time, because it's such a different environment. Does that answer your question?
So you haven't got like a 60-inch flat screen and Xbox and
stickers.
So that was
that might help the classroom environment. You know,
that was a good segue, and so I'll kind of preface this slide, and Tara's going to talk about it. So as I mentioned before, teachers started the externship. Tyson, you know, needed to see where everybody was at to kind of determine what they wanted to learn, what they really wanted to focus on. And so, as was mentioned, GitHub, you know, very widely used platforms in the industry currently. You know, HTML5, CSS3, and I think there was some JavaScript in there as well. So that kind of came out of that initial pre-interview meeting, what have you. We had some wine and cheese, and it was really nice. And so, so we were going to have an hour and a half, but we only have 50 minutes. And so I asked everybody to send me some PowerPoints when we did have an hour and a half. And this one really kind of stood out to me because it's Tara's, and it really kind of talks to what she was doing beforehand and then what she's doing now. So everybody else will, you know, get a chance to share a bit as well, but this one really stood out to me. So Tara, do you mind kind of talking about your process in the actual acquisition of the content and how it's really impacted what your curriculum looks like?
Yeah, I was waiting for the opportunities that happened for this externship for many years. I knew I was teaching it really old school web design and processing. So when this externship, I was like, this is so perfect. And the Git and the GitHub is very inspiring. So my students make web galleries for computer art class, and where they put their favorite pieces up. And so I just integrated an old lesson I've used with more contemporary methods to create that website. And so we used to do Illustrator and Photoshop, and then use Dreamweaver. And Dreamweaver is great, but it's old school, so I'm letting it go this year. And then we do basic HTML and CSS. I do HTML2 because I just didn't know 5, so I wasn't confident yet. And we couldn't publish the work because I just didn't have money and resources or a place to publish their website. So now I still doing the graphics with Illustrator or Photoshop. In my class, I try to keep a perfect balance between art and technology. My classes are very diverse. Some students don't have computers, some don't have electricity even. So I need to come in a very fun way with teaching technology so I can get the best, so that they could be competitive people in this world in the 21st century. So we do Illustrator to Photoshop, and now we're going to do GitHub to Git Bash to Sublime 3, unless I get the max at Mission. I don't know if they'll come or not. And then we're going to program with HTML5 and CSS4 and do the jQuery for fonts and also special effects. And then we get to publish back on GitHub. So actually they can publish their work and see each other's work. And they get to use many different tools. I think it was Yammer we visited, wasn't it? And I talked to a graphic designer there in Yammer, and he said knowing many different learning programs really, really quickly is one of the most important skills as a graphic designer. I was like, that's where I would think art would be. But I think that is an important skill. And so I have a lot more programs for them to learn. And it's a really better balance between technology and art. And also I'm putting texting in to bring in the cell phones. I want them, they have to put a bio about themselves and write it. And then I'm going to have 4 lines of something that's really important about themselves. Not too personal though. They don't get in trouble because it's going to be published. But texting on their phones so they get to get their phones out and use their phones to provide some of their personality on their website.
To Jared's point about publishing, you know, years ago, it was always such a struggle to find a company that was free, where I could have my students host a website. And finally, a few years ago, I found a company called Simic that allowed that. But then I had to fight to the district because one of their proxies had like a bad word in it, so they thought it was porn or something like that. I'm not sure. So I finally fought through with them, and then I got that host. But then it was always going up, and it was going down, and the company didn't support the hosting service very much because it was free. So then again, when Mission Bit taught us about GitHub, and one of the, you know, sort of probably the main real point of it, I guess, is it's really about the programming, but there's this ability to host websites on it too through GitHub.io, which it never goes down, it's always available, it's awesome. So now all my students have an opportunity to post to the web. No advertising shows up or anything, so it's really like they own it. It's free. So.
I have a question for you. The text, I guess, idea, what do you have the parameters of what you're going to do with that already set module, texting module?
No, they're going to put a conversation that they're doing texting on their phone, and they're just going to type it into the computer.
Oh, so they're
about themselves as a bio, and their phone is still attached to them. That's part of themselves. Yeah, because it's their web browser.
Okay.
So they're putting their texting, something that they think relates to themselves.
Okay.
So I had a couple of questions, and I don't know which point I should ask. So, one, you made the comment that you really loved being paid for it and being paid for this and that.
Yes.
Would you have done it had it not been paid for? And I'm just asking that for a few reasons. Number one, because
you paid for it.
well, you paid for it. Oh, you know. We did pay for it. But, you know, so one of the things that, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm Deborah, but from Baytech, and so we have very strict criteria that we don't pay for seat time in professional development. We pay for products. So I was glad you said you were happy to be paid for doing the curriculum development work, because that's what we do, we should pay for. But I think what I'm trying to kind of understand is motivations for other teachers trying to get into this and trying to think through, because, and then the other question that I have, so that's one, and then a completely different question is around the industry piece as to why you think you didn't get more than 2, and what you think might be a motivation for getting them involved as well.
So especially for high school teachers, I would say, like, during the school year, you're very busy teaching your classes, preparing materials, grading stuff. So there's not too much extra free time that you want to go home and learn all this stuff for work, right? But then we do have 2.5 months off in the summer, and not all of us are, teaching summer school. So by the time May comes, I think a lot of us are burnt out, and the thought of, like, I'm going to use my summer to learn all these new skills for my students doesn't sound too appealing, to be honest, because we're kind of so worn out, and it's one of the perks of our jobs is to have the summer off. And if I was going to do this, I wouldn't have done it if I wasn't getting paid. Basically, I was on my own unless I could work it in the day. Like, if I wasn't so busy and I could do it during my prep period, but I have a lot of other responsibilities. So if I wasn't going to
So
go
I
to work,
guess it was somewhat of a loaded question.
yes.
So I don't mind paying for the curriculum development, but for you to kind of get training is one of those where you, if you were in industry, you would be paying dearly for that. So part of it is, okay, so there is actually benefit coming to you for the training, you know, because you are gaining, you know, value through that. So the question comes in, if it were separated out, how would that affect it?
Well, I would think most companies, if they have employees that they like and they need to upgrade their skills, they're going to pay them at work to upgrade their skills.
Let me clarify that, because I'm in both places too. I still have to do my job, and I still have to go to that training, and so therefore there, you know.
Well, it depends on
yeah, so I am still gaining a salary, but I am still doing double time to make that happen. So yes and no, there is a, you know, give and take in that. So, I mean, so I'm not trying to, you know, but I guess the question came in, do you feel that the professional development you got from Mission Bit was valuable enough that you think it is something you would try to reach out to do if you had not gotten paid to do it? That's my question.
You know what? I mean, I think we all probably do, because we're all hard workers.
Right.
I mean, I know that we're not taking this opportunity at all and taking our summer, but we all did extra things that weren't paid. We all do. We sacrifice so much. I mean, if I go home and I pound down on,
and I'm not trying to get that into that kind of a
no, but you know, if we didn't learn what we learned from Mission Bit, we wouldn't have been able to learn curriculum, but kind of went hand in hand and working at the same time. When I had a question when I was writing the curriculum, I could reach out to you or to Tyson and say, help me while I'm writing it and learning it. It was all kind of together. And then I went home, I mean, even during my Christmas vacation, and I had to teach this unit with GitHub right here. And it's new, and I'm kind of nervous, so I pounded down on the internet and was redoing it. I wasn't paid. But I said, I'm not doing that.
Well, I think what your question is, and I want to make sure I'm understanding is, I don't think any of, if they do the amount of work, and I'm just saying, if you do the amount of work that was involved, would you have gone? Getting paid help. But now that you know that you did it and what the reward was, would you go back? Would you encourage others to go? Because even I've been to workshops where even though I got paid, I wouldn't encourage anybody to go do that.
So, I mean, you probably didn't get paid huge amounts of money.
No.
You know, even though,
I mean,
you know. But yeah, so you know, and so you know, we actually as
it was definitely reasonable. I mean,
it was.
Well, come on.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think there's a sweet spot when it comes to, like, I mean, it's both an internship, which is training, and then also professional development. Those are two different things, and I think what we participate in is both. So we were compensated. And I don't think we would have done it if it wasn't offered, because like Tara was saying and other people, that the school year is, you know, it's like 150% of our work, even though the day is from 8 to 3:30. So I think the teachers, you know, mentality is like, we put in so much work that we get really burned out and we need the summer to unwind. But one thing that, there was two people during the internship that I ran into, some industry professionals. They referred to a book by Daniel Pink. It's called The Intrinsic, well, it's about intrinsic motivation. And he mentions three things. They are, well, three things that are part of intrinsic motivation, which is the opposite of like this kind of a carrot stick model, which is like, you know, you compensate someone for the work done. But the intrinsic model is where it's based on their, like people do things because they recognize the purpose, they recognize that they need to be a master, an expert at something, and they also have to have the autonomy to do to decide where and when and with whom they work with. And actually, a lot of it describes what Doug was talking about. what all these successful professionals do. They work on their own, or they have the freedom to work on their own, but they also recognize that they become professionals at what they do, and they see that there's this bigger purpose. Instead of just promoting themselves, they're promoting their company or this kind of like a social vision. But after doing this internship, I realized that's our profession. We do that. Like we work hard. We try to get better at what we do, and we work for this bigger kind of like develop this democracy where everyone gets an equal education. So I think the motivation for us to learn is there. I mean, we wouldn't do it if we weren't motivated to improve. But it helps to have that, kind of like, I mean, if it was less, I would still do it. I mean,
I would say, because a lot of the stuff we were doing on our own on the computers, but we were physically there, so it kind of forced a lot of distractions while you're at home. So if you were to offer it, but not say you're going to get compensated, but the benefit would be that you would have, an expert to help you with questions, I think some teachers would do that in the summer and when they have more time, but maybe they would kind of do the tutorials and then just go to visit with someone with questions for a couple hours, and that would suffice. But to do something 9 to 5, Monday through Friday for 3 weeks, and not get paid and have the expectation to be there, if I wasn't getting paid, I would do that.
And so to kind of feed off that, right, in the traditional externship model, right, it's the industry that's helping to supplement the teacher's fee, right, or salary. So that kind of feeds into your other question about some of the challenges in connecting folks. And I touched base with Tyson earlier, and so he had some kind of insights as to what made that a little bit challenging. Do you mind kind of?
Yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally, I think it was just the amount of time leading up to trying to actually find the internship. So I think, for a company to take on any sort of intern is a commitment of resources that they need to allocate away from other, shipping product or hitting a deadline. So and so the idea of hosting teachers in kind of an internship job shadow was very appealing to many of the companies, but there just wasn't enough lead time for them to kind of pull the trigger. They didn't have the slack within their organization for someone to be like, oh, cool, I'll take that on.
But next year,
given
the time.
Well, I think any time where you had enough of a runway to set that up effectively, I think you would get organizations to not only take on the teachers, but also maybe possibly offset any the payment for the internship.
Oh, I was, as I said, I was just trying to understand. I mean, we've done, so many years ago, they did a lot of externships for teachers. And they got paid, they did it for 7 weeks, and they got $5,000, but that was like 10 years ago. So the pay would get a little bit higher now. But the thing is the companies did pay them. They had actual projects within the company, all that type of stuff. So they actually had to do, work for the company. But it was also in their area and line of work. And so it was really a fascinating program, and the teachers said a lot of really great things about it. So I guess part of mine was trying to kind of understand, how much of this was training, how much of it was curriculum development work, how much of it was, in the industry, and what motivations there were there that helped.
And so just before you answer that question, I want to we spend quite a few minutes on these two questions, and we have about 4 minutes left, and so I want you to be able to answer that question, but I also want to open up if anybody has any other questions that they're interested in asking. Please feel free to kind of stay afterwards, and hopefully we'll be able to address them.
It's an interesting question. That's what I think we're all talking about. I think that's obviously an issue. Teachers almost had a strike and all this kind of thing. We hear about it a lot. It's almost like a guilt thing. Like, come on, it's for the kids. We hear that so much. I never close my room at lunch. I don't get paid for lunch, but it's open every day to tutor kids. I'm there every day after school, like a lot of these teachers are. So this is just one of those other opportunities. It's like, come on, Doug, just go to a PD for 3 weeks in the summer. It's for the kids, man. Don't be so selfish. And it's like, you know, no, I'm putting my foot down. So, you know, I know it's for the kids, but it's a little bit for me too. So you know, there's other opportunities. Opportunity costs.
Yeah.
I can go work somewhere else and make money more with my summer. So if I'm going to make less, granted it was a nice stipend, but if I'm going to, I could have made more somewhere else.
I wonder if the willingness and decision plays different for teachers at different points in their teaching career. You know, after you've had several negative experiences with professional development, what you decide to do with your summer on a Saturday on a night is completely different.
Yeah.
However, there are younger teachers who are just a couple years out of college who that might hit very differently, and that might be a pivotal experience for them. So I would ask the teachers to look around and consider, you know, where the teacher is, because the teachers that have been around teaching a long time, we've already got a lot going. The list of things that I would love to do with a great atmosphere to revise my classes, oh my God, there are not enough summers before I'll die. It's already there, there's just not enough time. It's, you know, 2 other people down the hall are ripe for something like this. So I think it really does hit teachers differently at different times in their career, and the teachers on staff would know who in the building would be really helped by that and benefited, I think.
That's a filthy segue, Christy. So, unfortunately, we're not going to get to. Art had some more student impact.
Yeah, go one more and click on the word example,
okay,
so people can actually see. This is an assignment I put up on GitHub. So basically, it's like a folder. So in that, I can put artwork if I want kids to concentrate on programming so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. This is markdown language, so the instructions are in the folder. And scroll down here, and my students have GitHub websites themselves. So you click on any of those names. This is going to be Zachary's.
I played this one last night.
Okay, yeah. So this is Asteroids, and so it really came together well. The kids share their work with each other, right? They play each other's games on GitHub, and so a lot of the kids told me they were going to keep working on it over Christmas break, and it made me feel really good.
So, and there was one last thing. Oh yeah. So, as a result, also in the spring, now we have 8 teachers signed up so far, 7 high school teachers and 1 middle school teacher that's interested. We've kind of altered it a little bit because it's not really a true externship at this point. It's really just the professional development of the classes and the curriculum development that teachers are participating in. But as we've talked about, the interest is out there. At least in San Francisco Unified, the district is not really offering on a broad scale these opportunities to really get folks up to speed with their skills, and they're doing it in pockets. But through Tyson and our work with CTE and with the help from VTech, we've really been able to offer these opportunities. There you go. Checks in the mail, guys.
Yeah. So I guess when I was asking what did you get, how different it would be about you, I love your answer. But I guess another thing that I was looking for is traditionally in teaching, I know when I was teaching and early in my own experiences, collaborating was cheating. And I've heard you talk about, they share. Yeah. How much differently have you approached students working together after your experience?
What I saw at Yammer was very much like this room. So every seat would have a computer at it, and everybody could see each other's monitors. And they were encouraged to get up and walk and talk and look and see what other people are doing. So I'm comfortable with that. I think that's great. I went to work. The end result, like when I look at Zachary's game, I wanted to look at somebody else's game. So as long as they're collaborating in a way to understand how to make their game do what they want it to do. I mean, I think that's how it works. I mean, that's what it looks like in the workplace.
Yeah, I do that in my place too. I mean, you have to sharing art from arts to program. And there's time to share and there's time to learn and work. Because they're high school students and not college students, so you have to kind of make sure you have the foot down, but also let go and know how to put it back down when they know that routine. Once they know that routine, it's great, and then it's all collaboration. That's the work world.
Yeah, I think the statistics show that their programming actually.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for today. You know, because sometimes for teachers in my district, it's been hard to get to that point.
Yeah.
You know, to pair program. We had to you know, when we reconfigured our labs with Mac, I only ordered 16. I ordered 32. And we used to say, now what are you going to do? You know, it's a hard adjustment. So
I think we're supported, like definitely at Burton by our principal and by us. We see a lot of team role. I see it everywhere. I see pair programming, teamwork together, and that was everywhere. I do get complaints this last semester from a couple of parents because their kids didn't, you know, the kids were blaming it on the other kids didn't do the work, and that's a struggle. Yeah. And that I'm still trying to figure out a way to responsibly look at each kid's performance, and I come up with a rubric, and I have the kids rate each other. It's, you know, it's not, some parents have come and they're trouble with that. That's the way to go.
I have a question about collaboration. First, I want to say thank you. Thank you. This keeps the passion. Keeps the passion. Your collaboration, you were talking about there are differences. You teach, I guess, the same course with maybe the same title, but there's differences. It sounds like you're collaborating on
even things that are not evaluating them, they're not just parents. They don't call. Because you figure out the time to collaborate and not to, and they get to know the right time to do. So then they're working with you. It's like you have to set up how to work together because they're too young to know how to work together.
No, I'm talking about you mentioned how you were collaborating on your curriculum that you were teaching. You mentioned that you teach similar courses, but you guys don't have, the A&E teachers don't have a chance to get together and talk about what you're teaching. Are you getting the same outcomes, etc.? Because one of the things that we noticed when we were doing the inventory is that classes would have the same names, but there were different topics and probably different outcomes coming out of that class. And that is one of the things that we're finding difficult in linking pathways to college. Because if you took this course in Lincoln or Burton, we're thinking it's the same course and it should go into, you know, go up this A&E pathway at City College, and it may not.
It's hard to standardize.
Yeah, and we have the same issue too. Yeah, right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the good thing is that here you guys are talking, so that's the start. That's the start. Okay. Again, thank you. Okay.